say three things make you say, "I'm loving to see all of you." One thing to say, I'm bound to a square. So if I don't come close to you, don't take it personal because I'm bound to a square for video purposes. I'm so happy to be here. We're going to talk about challenge and connection. So you all got into school, so you must have had some things in your life that went well. Yeah. And some things that may not have gone so well sometimes. Or did everything go well the whole 18, 19, 20, couple of years you've been here? No, things go, sometimes they go really well, and sometimes they go really not so well. So what this session and next session is about is how do I respond? How do I respond? Everything you're going to hear in the next two sessions, you already know, is just a little whining. So I invite you to take what you like and leave the rest. I'm coming here as a person who succeeded in some things, like I was a strategy consultant in New York City. I was one of the youngest partners in my strategy consulting company. Did pretty well. I was born on a farm. I was terrible at milking cows. I almost became a monk at some point. I was pretty good at meditation and very bad at dating, which is one of the reasons that I went almost into the monastery. And then I discovered this profession of coaching for the last 20 years, which sometimes goes well, and sometimes people really don't get it, or sometimes I have a bad day. I'm 52, I only got married 3 years ago. I had lots of not so great relationships. So I had lots of challenges come my way that I got to learn from. And what I'm here to do today is to share a little bit about how do we respond to these challenges? Do we become smaller or do we become bigger? What is that? What is that? Yes. We're going to talk about connectedness because as I worked with people over the last 20 years and with myself for the last 52 years, I found that there's different kinds of intelligences. There's like the intelligence, you could say, of IQ. What's IQ about? What's IQ about? What's IQ about? Shout it out. What do you think?
Intellectual.
Intellectual. It's like about my thinking. Like, 1 + 1 = 2. Let's calculate, let's learn a new language. All that's IQ. Then there's EQ. There's EQ. What's EQ about? Emotions, right? So there's IQ. IQ is about my thinking. IQ is about my thinking. And that's very helpful because when I'm challenged, I really want to make sure that I have high quality thoughts, right? And then also, I want to make sure that my thinking actually works well. So actually, I want to make sure that my thinking works well. And not only my thinking works well, but my emotions are working well. I always like examples because also at 52 years old, you have challenges. I have challenges. So for example, I'm working with a client right now on a project. And of course, I think I know what I'm doing. This client thinks that they know better than I do what I'm doing. So they're gonna try to tell me what to do. So my IQ is like, no, that's not right. You shouldn't do that. And I have some ideas about it. Then my EQ says, well, I'm feeling a little sad about this, maybe I need to empathize a little bit more. But then there's a deeper intelligence that comes online, that goes beyond IQ and EQ. And I call that CQ. CQ are connectedness. How connected am I to what's most important to me? So think about a challenge you're facing. And we're going to work with that challenge over the next 90 minutes. And we're going to think about my IQ, a little bit, my EQ, a little bit, and then a lot about what's my CQ doing, my CQ, my connectedness, my CQ, my connectedness. My connectedness and this CQ of connectedness, you could say we anchor in 3 areas. I think about it that way just to give myself a little anchor. One is, How connected am I to myself? Has to do with my values. My values. What else do you think we need to be connected to activate higher wisdom? What else do you think we need to be connected to? Yes. Other people, right? Not just me, but actually it happens to be like me and my colleague or my client or what they're standing for, right? So it's not just me, there's also we. This has to do with others and empathy. Empathy. This has to do with empathy. What else do you think we need to be connected to make sure that we access the highest intelligence possible when challenged? What else do you think we need to be connected to? Any ideas? Myself, the other. What else? Any ideas? We're working on something hard. Yes.
I'm kind of cheating, but like it's something that with what you're working on, what you're doing.
Yeah, what you're working on, right? It's not just like my client, let's call her Mary, and I now get along, and Hilke's in his values, which happen to be about truth, love, and service. No, it's Mary and Hilke are working on this project to change the culture of this organization. So we want to work on that too. So that's we call the it. We call this the it, or the task, or what we are in service of. Okay. That's a little bit of a framework we use as a background for our 2 sessions together. Okay. Today, we're very much going to focus on the session, on the part where we have most leverage. So when we are challenged, where is our greatest leverage? What do you think? On the it, the thing we're working on, changing that? Working on the other and the empathy with the other? Or ourselves, our own values and wisdom? What do you think our greatest leverage is? Any ideas? I, we, or it? What do you think? Huh? There's no wrong answers. The I. You know, the ancient Greeks. Anybody from Greece here? Anybody from ancient Greece here? No, probably not. So the Greeks would travel for like months, each days, depending on where you live, to get to this oracle in Delphi. And they went to the oracle in Delphi to get advice on, like, I have a relationship problem. The goat from my neighbors eats my grass. I don't like this. I'm feeling depressed. What do I do? My daughter is sick. Whatever the issue was. And they went to the oracle hoping to find answers, to access an external higher intelligence. What do you think is written over the gate in Delphi? Any ideas? Any ideas? Gnosos autes, which means know thyself. Know thyself. So these people went for all of that time trying to find an external answer. And there are we. Are you and your challenge, or me and my challenge. And so there's something about finding the intelligence to look inside. That's what we're going to work on today. So what I invite you to do is to think about a challenge that you're facing right now. And as you're doing that, I'd like you to cross your arms. Please cross your arms. Do it right now. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. All right. And please cross your arms the other way. Yes, yes. And relax again. Relax again. How is the second time? How is the second time? Crossing the arms differently. How is the second time? How is it different from the first time? Yes. It felt unnatural and awkward. Yes. So the second time is awkward. What does it have to do with learning something new? It's awkward, right? So actually accessing a new insight in ourselves can feel a little awkward at times. Have you noticed? Doing something different can feel a little awkward. So to actually pull us out of that awkwardness, we need to really know what we're going for. So I'm asking you to think about this. What do you really value? What do you really value? And to get to that question, which is a very deep question, I'm going to ask you to think about somebody that you admire. Somebody that you admire. Somebody that you admire. Somebody I admire lived on Whidbey Island, not too far from here. See, I met her when she was about 92 years old. Her name was Jean White. And she had more energy than most people that I know. She was the president of the Child Nutrition Foundation. She would travel all around the world and coach. And she had these like happy lights in her eyes. I admire her for her resourcefulness, for her curiosity. At 95, she would say, "Isn't it fascinating that I just discovered another planet? I wonder what the implication of that is for my life." So I admire Jean for her resourcefulness and for her curiosity, which are also values that I have. What I'd like you to do is think about a person that you admire and what you admire them for. Yes? Think about a person that you admire and what you admire them for. And please share that with the person sitting next to you. I'm going to give you 2 minutes in a moment to talk to the person next to you and say, maybe you introduce each other. No, maybe you know each other, maybe you don't know each other. And talk about a person that you admire them for. Ready? Off you go. Thank you. So values. I'm very curious, what values did you come up with? I'm going to point in your direction and then please speak them because we'd like to hear as many values as we have time for in this segment. So let's hear them and I'm going to write them down. So let's hear some from this area here, from this area over here. Go ahead.
A growth mindset.
A growth mindset. Love that. A growth mindset. Thank you for that. Another one. Values. Dedication. Just feel it in your bones, right? Dedication. I'm challenged, there's dedication. Suddenly I have something to stand in. Also when things don't go well. What else? Something from me over here. Goal-oriented. Beautiful. Goal-oriented. So there's the it again. Being goal-oriented. Thank you for that. What about here in the middle? Altruism. The other person in mind. Altruism. What else? From here in the front. Yeah, that's you guys. How about you?
Hardworking, I guess.
Hardworking, yes, hardworking. Being hardworking. What else? Yes. Resilient. Even when things don't go well, we can connect to our resilience. Yes, what else? Something from the back. Very much over there. Yes. Resourcefulness. That's such a beautiful word. Resourcefulness. Being full of resources. That's so good. Like sometimes you forget. I've got all these resources inside of me. What else? Yes. Integrity. Very strong, like integrity, which means everything is bound together. Like integrity. Everything is together. Like there's something like that. What else? Maybe from over there. From the couch area over there. Perseverance. Yes. Perseverance. Thank you so much. So here's a couple of values. Why did we think we chose those values? Why did we choose these people? Why did we think we chose those values? Why did we choose those values, you think? Any ideas? Why do we choose those people to think about for values? They're over here. Yes, thank you for that.
Value you want to see yourself.
It's a value you want to see in yourself. It's a value that we want to see in ourselves. So we see something reflected, like a cool video. It's like, ooh, I want that. No, I want that. I want that. I have that with my husband often. My husband is African American, and often he says things in a different way than I do. I'm like, oh, there's a sense of ground. Like, for example, I have been taught that I should be great. I should feel good most of the time. So when my husband asks me, how are you doing? I'm always, oh, I'm fine. His response to that often is, huh, that's all. He's saying something to me. He's like, I think you might be not holding something back. There's something about his truthfulness that I admire. That's a value I have as well. So what I'd like you to do is think about your challenge and what would happen if you applied these values to it a little bit more. What would happen if you applied these values to it a little bit more? And 3 values that I hold are truth, love, and service, like Gene White service. These are 3 things I hold. So if I think about my conflict with Mary and think about becoming more oriented in, let's say, my service, it's not about a conflict. It's not about Mary being right or me being right. It's about making progress and helping these people. And maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe this is something where we can work together. So what I'd like you to do is, with that same person you just sat with, have a conversation again about a challenge you're facing, a real one. Doesn't have to be big one, can be small one, whatever it is. And have a conversation with the person sitting next to you about what happens when you apply your values, maybe times 2. What happens if just times 2? Okay, off you go, 2 minutes. And if you're sitting next to somebody with 2 or 3, just do it with the 3 of you. Thank you. So what did you notice when you thought about applying your values to this challenge? What happens? What happens? I'm curious. What happens? What does that do? Does it make the problem bigger or smaller? Smaller, probably, because it creates some perspective, you could say. It's like when I'm really stressed out about something, the challenge is right here. That's all I can see. When I add my values to it, I get some different perspectives, just like I get some other voices in me that say, oh, maybe you can approach this a little differently. A monk once said to me, a mind is like a dangerous neighborhood. It's better not to go there by yourself. Like, oh yeah, you got a point. Like, by adding those values to it, I actually get a sense of, like, okay, there's something else that I could be doing and thinking about. Now, are we always operating from our values? Are we always operating from our values? Raise your hand if you don't think we're always operating from our highest values. Raise your hands. That's pretty unanimous. Yes. I'd be very surprised if you thought we were, because I think in our current state of human evolution, we are very much wired for different things, to actually disempower ourselves. So we're going to explore this for a second, why we're not always in our values, connected to our values. We're often connected to something, you could say, that is maybe holding us back. Have you ever felt you holding yourself back? No? Yes? Yes? Yes. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I've got thoughts in my head that hold me back all the time. So what we're going to spend a little bit of time on is like, where do these thoughts come from that hold me back? This challenge look more difficult. Let me ask you a question to explore that. Have you ever been late for a meeting or a class? Raise your hand. I'm seeing if you're still awake. Yes, most of us have, right? What do we say to the reason of why are we late for a meeting? What do we say as a reason for why are we late for a meeting? What do we say? What are some reasons we give for being late for a meeting? Yes? Traffic. Brilliant, you won the prize. It's like, yes, traffic, right? Traffic. We think I'm late for a meeting because of traffic. Because of traffic. Or what are some other reasons? What are some other reasons that we give? Yes?
Woke up late.
Yeah, I woke up late. Yeah, I was very tired. That's what happened. It could happen, right? Or what else happens? What else? Why are we late for meetings? Bring it on. Why are we late for meetings? Yes? I calculated the time wrong. That's a very responsible answer already. Why is traffic, or like I had back-to-back meetings, or there was too much time between the classes to walk, all this stuff. Why is that such a great reason? Why is traffic such a great reason? It's something I can't control. So something in our mind loves things that are comfortable. Think about the crossing of the arms that we cannot control. Because why is something that I cannot control such a great reason to give? What does that give me? An excuse. So traffic actually gives me an excuse. Traffic makes me innocent. Traffic makes me innocent. That's what it gives me. So I gravitate to things that are outside of my control because then I am innocent. Right? Okay. Now, what happens if I keep thinking about having to be innocent? Like I think about my challenge about the traffic, being late for a meeting, and I keep thinking about traffic. And next time I'm planning for a meeting, all I can think of is traffic, 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 traffic. It's traffic. What's the chance I'm going to be on time next time? Very low, right? Why? Because my mind is totally filled with excuse. So the downside of this kind of thinking, that disempowers me, that disconnects me from my wisdom, is that I become choiceless. I become choiceless. And you could say, the person that sees fewest choices is often the least powerless person. The least powerful person that sees fewest choices is the person that sees that is often most powerless. See that? Like if I think with Mary, it's my way or your way or end of project. That's very limited. It's very narrow thinking. You see that? So actually, the least powerful person in the room is the person that sees fewest choices. And this happens because I'm focusing all my attention on factors that are outside of my control. Outside of my control. And we can give a name to this kind of thinking. You recognize this kind of thinking in yourself? You try to, something happens, it's like, it's not me. It's a difficult client. Or, the difficult boyfriend or girlfriend. Or the difficult friend. Or the professor didn't get it. Or the whatever. The stuff was not available online or whatever it was. Do you notice that in your mind? It's part of our evolutionary thinking. This is where we're at. Yes. Okay, so this kind of thinking that is outside of our control, we can give a name. You can call this victim thinking, or also reactive thinking. Reactive thinking. Reactive thinking. Why would we call it victim thinking, you think? Why would we call it victim thinking? What do you think? Yes. You.
Because you think you're the victim.
Yeah, you're like, oh, well, poor me, like Mary doesn't get me. Or whatever it might be. Yeah, you see that? Okay, so that's the bad news. That's the bad news, that this is part of how our mind sometimes works when we're not at our best. Now, what is a different alternative? What's a different reason we can give for why you're late for the meeting? What's a different reason we can give? I was late for the meeting because I didn't prepare, or I didn't plan well, right? So I didn't plan well. So you could say, I was late for the meeting because given traffic, I left late. Given traffic, I left late. It's probably hard for you to read at the end of the room. I'm going to read this. Given traffic, I left late. Given traffic, I left late. I could blame the flip chart for being too small, or I can do something to see. There's a challenge. They might not be able to read that. So let me see what we can do about that. Oh, I can actually talk about it, how we can make it more legible. Okay, given traffic, I left late. Now, why is this such a wonderful way of thinking? Why? What does that give us? What does that give us? What does it give us?
Power.
Power, how?
You're taking responsibility for it, so you're allowing yourself to be in a position where you can overcome things.
Yes, because I spend some time, like here's the challenge and I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to engage my mental capacity. I connect with it. I use my higher intelligence to engage as opposed to turning myself off. Right? I become choiceful. I become choiceful. So the power here is I become choiceful and I make myself responsible. Like choiceful, responsible. Now, what's the downside of this? Let's say you have a meeting with the dean of the Foster School of Business. Or you have a meeting with this employer where you really want to work. I don't know. Where do you want to work? What are some companies or places you want to work? Yell them out. Any ideas? You don't want to work anywhere. Where do you want to work? Huh? Nordstrom. Let's say you have an interview with Nordstrom. And you run, and the interview is at 9. But because you had one lovely party the evening before, or something like that, you show up at 9:15. And you've just been through this class about victims. Like, I'm not going to be a victim. So you show up and you say to this person from Nordstrom, saying, yeah, I don't want to be a victim about this. I'm showing up at 9:15 because I slept in. I'm taking responsibility. It's true. How does that feel? Maybe not so great. It's kind of uncomfortable. So actually the downside of taking responsibility is that I put myself in the hot seat. I'm going to have to, the more I connect to what's important to me, the more I have to take responsibility. It's not always great news, is it? The more I take responsibility, the mind's very creative. I can come up with hundreds of reasons why things don't go well that have nothing to do with me. But if I want to connect I have to put myself on the hot seat. This thinking is not about things that are outside of my control. These things are about things that are within my control. They are within my control, right? They are within my control. They are within my control. They're within my control. And this I also call the 1% principle. The 1% principle. Why do you think we call it the 1% principle? Why do we call it the 1% principle? What do you think? Anybody from the back? Why do we call it the 1% principle as opposed to the 99% principle? We're focusing on the 1% that is within our control as opposed to thinking about the 99% that is not within our control. Does that make sense? So we're actually looking at the 1% that's within my control as opposed to the 99% that is outside of my control. Okay? That's why you call this the 1% principle, and this we can call 99% reasoning. It's very busy. I mean, I can come up with lots of excuses about why Mary is not doing this, and why my husband is not doing that, and why politics is not doing this, and why my parents are not doing that, and my siblings, and my friends, and my endless reasons. As opposed to thinking, in control. What is within my influence? What do I value? What do I value? Okay, so on the one side of the page, victim thinking, 99%. On the other side, 1% principle thinking. 1% principle thinking. All right. Why don't we all get up for a second? Why don't we get up for a moment? Get up for a moment. Why don't we get up for a moment? Okay, get up for a moment. Get up for a moment. I would like to do a little acting class with you. All right, when you feel lost in the 99%, act out, how do you stand? When you're in your 99%, you're thinking about all the things that are outside of your control, how do you stand? I stand something like this. I become very small. Please do it. How do you become? When you think about your 99%. Yeah, I see stress. What the heck are we doing? This is a strange class. This guy is crazy. Yes, all right. All right, so it's a contracting energy. You see that? We can notice the 99% because we feel less spacious. Okay, now, shake that out for a second. Shake that out. Okay, now let's connect to this higher perspective. If I stand in my 1%, what I truly value, how do you stand? This may be how you stand when you prepare for an interview or for a class or something like that, or for an exam. How do you go stand? I try to stand on my 2 feet. I try to breathe. I try to be quiet. I become more resolute. I could see it in you. You stand differently. Now, as children, we didn't learn, at least I didn't. I learned victim thinking. Please take your seat. Thank you for this. Quick acting class. So, as a child, we learned about like being innocent, right? Being innocent. Because what does the child say when there's a toy on the floor and it's kaput? What does the child say? What does the child say? Uh-oh. It's kaput. Like it's self-destructed. And then there's a glass of milk on the floor. What does that little child say? It fell. It jumped off the table, right? And then we get a little older, and we're in a conversation with somebody. In my generation, we received lots of phone calls. These days, I think it's text and stuff like that, right? That we get these days, more like that. Okay, the thing starts buzzing. I'm like, hold on a second. And my friend asked, why did you pick up the phone? What do I say? It rang. It rang. It rang. Isn't that interesting? So I'm giving my power to what? To this thing. To this thing. Why does the child not say, I broke the toy? Why? Why not? Yes?
Scared that you're going to get mad at them or like disappointed.
Yeah. We don't like our parents to be mad at us, right? We like people to like us. It's a very early need that we develop. Like we want to be liked. We're afraid that our parents are going to reject us. See that? So that's what a child doesn't say, I did that. That's why we try to make up excuses, because we learn this from a very early age. We can also see this in how our brain develops. How many people know here about the amygdala? Anybody know about the amygdala here? Raise your hand if you have. Yes, a few people. The amygdala is the first piece of our brain, pretty much, that comes to full maturity when we're babies. When we get here, it works. It's a wonderful piece of equipment, the amygdala, okay? And the amygdala is a very powerful tool. The amygdala is a very powerful tool. And its primary function is what? What's the primary function of the amygdala? Yes, it's a fight, flight, freeze reaction. Okay, so fight, flight, freeze reaction. That's what it does. It's an expert in protecting us. What's the primary function of our nervous system? Of the internal wiring? What's the primary function of our nervous system? Is it to learn? Is it to love?
Keep you alive.
To keep me alive! Heck yes! The primary function of our nervous system is to keep us alive. It's survival. The problem is the nervous system doesn't very much know the difference between physical survival and emotional survival. So it feels that a tiger attacking us and somebody giving us negative feedback is the same thing. So I go, I'm in the wild and oop, my friend didn't like me. It's like the tiger biting my head off, so I better get on it immediately. That's what it feels like. So I fight, flight, freeze. How long does the amygdala take to come up with an idea about what it needs to do? Is it let me think about it? No. It's immediate, right? The amygdala is immediate. The amygdala basically takes 0 seconds. Takes 0 seconds to get to fight, flight, or freeze. That's the bad news. So, think about your challenge. When your amygdala is on, how wise are you? How connected are you? Not very much, right? When my reptilian brain is on, it's not does not work very well, right? I need something else. So the good news is that a couple of years from 18, so around the age of 21, 22, there's another part of our brain that comes to full maturity. For some of us, never, maybe me. But there is a part of our brain that's called the neocortex. The neocortex. The neocortex. What's the neocortex about? It's about logic. Neocortex is about logic and reason. all cues. EQ it also thinks about, it's connected to our emotion, being able to regulate it. And it helps me to take a perspective, like, what's going on with this challenge? Is it really this bad? Maybe I have some other options. It allows me to walk around the challenge, so to speak. It allows me to walk around the challenge. So the neocortex helps me to get perspective. Now, how long do you think the neocortex takes to get a full picture of what's going on? What did our grandparents say before we're about to do something stupid? Count to 20? No. 10. Count to 10. Maybe our grandparents didn't say that. My grandparents said that. Count to 10. They were neuroscientists because it takes the neocortex about 8 to 10 seconds. 8 to 10 seconds to come up with a full picture of what's going on. You see that? It takes about 8 to 10 seconds to come up with a full picture of what's going on. So to actually activate the neocortex and to connect to my higher wisdom, what do I need to do when I'm stressed? What do I need to do? To mitigate my fight, flight, freeze reactions, what do I need to do? I need to actually interrupt the momentum from my amygdala by pressing something that we can call the pause button. The pause button. We need to be able to press the pause button and count to 10. And to start asking ourselves some different questions. Question I like to ask myself when I feel stressed out. Is it my wiser brain or my not so wise brain that's talking to me at the moment?
I gave my not so wise brain
a name and called this the crocodile. And my wiser brain, I decided to give a name and call that the owl. So who's talking right now? Is it the owl or the crocodile? And when I'm not quite sure, who's talking, you think? The owl or the crocodile? Probably the crocodile, right? So when I'm not quite sure who's talking to me, it's probably my crocodile who's talking to me. Now, the crocodile is really, really creative. It's very creative. He's feeding me crocodile victim language all day long. So I'd like you to make sure that we recognize this. I'd like to do a little brainstorm of some crocodilian victim statements. Okay? Of some crocodilian victim statements. And what I'd like you to do, in about groups of 3 or 4, come up with as many victim statements as you can come up with. Of course, you would never say them, but the people around you probably are. Yes? So that was a joke. So think about the people around you saying these things that are like, oh no, it's the dean of this or that. Or it's putting stuff on people outside of me. So victim statements for me are like, my client doesn't get it. The setup isn't right. I didn't have enough time as opposed to I didn't prioritize well, etc. Is it clear what I'm asking? Okay, with groups of 3 or 4, come up with as many victim crocodile statements you can come up with. You have 3 minutes. Go to town. Go crocodile. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's hear some of those crocodile statements. I want to do a little inventory. What are some of those crocodile languages, things that we say in our minds, or maybe we even say them, that disconnect us from our wisdom and from our power and from each other? What are some of the things that we say? First from the front here.
My computer doesn't work.
My computer isn't working. Yes, as opposed to what would be a more responsible way to say this.
I need to get my computer fixed, or I can go on campus.
Yeah, I can work to get my computer fixed, which doesn't mean my computer doesn't create problems, but at least I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to work on it. Yes, create some choices. Thank you for that. What else? Another victim statement. Yes. I completely forgot, which already has a little responsibility to it, right? But when I know that I'm forgetful, what can I do to create more choices?
Use a calendar.
Yes, use something to remind you. My husband has a very good memory, so I just ask him, hey, and I use my calendar. Of course, I can't say my husband didn't remind me that I'm in victim statements again. Yes? Okay. What else? Thank you. Victim statements. From over here. This middle section here.
It's their fault.
Always.
Blaming on someone else. It's their fault.
It's their fault. It's clearly their fault. Yes, we know that, right? It's always their fault. And I can come up with really good reasons why it's their fault, as opposed to saying what?
I take responsibility for my actions.
I take responsibility for my actions, or I haven't quite figured out how to work with them yet, or whatever it is, which puts me on the edge of learning. As you know, remember the crossing of the arms? Puts me in the zone of discomfort, right? How many people got out of bed this morning thinking, I want to be uncomfortable? Raise your hand. Nobody. Well, maybe one or two. How many people thought this morning, I want to learn something? Raise your hand. Well, there's a few people at the foster school who would like to learn stuff. That's nice. All right. All right. Good. All right. So that means, but notice that to get from out of this victim language is uncomfortable. It puts us in the hot seat, right? So learning, there's something in us like, no, don't do this. Don't do this. It may be in part because of our biological conditioning. If I go way, way back, our brains haven't really caught up to the reality we are today. We're still thinking we're in the wild. And so if I find a reliable source of food, I'm not going to change that up because I want to make sure I've got the same thing to eat tomorrow. I can rely on that. So, of course, I'm not going to change things up or even change my thinking. If I'm very used to thinking it's their fault, I'm going to think that tomorrow again. Changing my thinking is very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. It will challenge us inside. It challenges our evolution. Yes? Okay. Other victim statement. Yes? I can't help it. No, you can't help it. And why? What would be a more responsible way to say? I didn't bother to do anything about it, right? Now, but the 1% principle does not mean becoming a superhero, right? It can mean I'm choosing not to engage in this. That's also a choice. But at least I'm not saying that they are doing this to me. Inside of me, something is rejoicing when I make a conscious choice, and something in me is like, not so happy when I fall into the trap of victim thinking. You can notice that in ourselves. Our better angels say inside, like, oh, yes, the man of this, the woman or the day is standing up. Yes. Inside of us, like, yeah, it's a lot noisy when you're not completely in your truth. You know that. So something in us, when we say, oh, it's all their fault, something in us knows that we're kind of making stuff up. We know that. It doesn't feel so good. We don't feel so tall on the inside. Okay, that was a sidebar. Another victim statement from around here. There weren't any victim statements. I'm going to blame the... No, we didn't have any victim... No, we didn't have any victim statement. One victim statement from over here. What about you? Yes, you.
He said the professor made the exam too hard.
Absolutely. The professor made the exam too hard. And we can all agree on it, so now we can all blame the professor. Lovely. As opposed to? I could have better prepared myself. Now, it doesn't mean that some professors make exams too hard, but then you can have a conversation about it with them, saying, hey, professor, you taught this, you're asking this, maybe we can talk about this. Right? That's also taking a choice. All right. Notice that part of our brain doesn't like this at all. It's the amygdala. How quick is the amygdala again? 0 seconds. It's immediate. Then to get to wisdom, we have to count to 10. Let's do this together. I'm challenged. Whatever the challenge is together, whatever the challenge is. Think about this. Let's count to 10 together. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
How long is that? Huh? Forever. Like when somebody says, you're an idiot, or I don't like you, or you failed on the test, or I'm upset at you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How long is that? That's forever. That's very uncomfortable. Is it forever? No. It just feels forever. For who? For the owl? For the wise part of my brain, or for the not so wise part of my brain? It's the crocodile feels it's like forever. Have you noticed? My mind my mind is an interpretation machine. It makes this stuff up. That's not true. Not true. That's why a mind is like a dangerous neighborhood. It's better not to go there by yourself.
I'm not sure I understand.
And your watch doesn't quite understand that. I'm not sure I understand. That's interesting. Now we can blame your watch for doing that. Or we can play with that. It's like, oh, that's an interesting moment. The watch said something. We can say something about this. So when we're not sure who's talking is the owl or the crocodile? The crocodile. When we're stressed, what can we do? We can press the pause button, and we can ask ourselves, who's talking right now? Is it the owl or the... Let's do this again. Is it the owl or the... And when I'm not quite sure who's talking? The crocodile. So I press the pause button, and when I'm stressed, I ask myself, who's talking right now? And the crocodile. We're repeating this a few times because then we remember, because part of our nervous system does not want to remember because it likes to stay in crocodile. So who's talking right now when I'm not sure? The owl, the crocodile? The crocodile. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have these different parts of our brain. Part of our brain is connecting us. The neocortex, it takes a while. It's just a little metaphor. There's a lot of other parts to our brain, like the heart, etc. We can access our higher wisdom by pressing the pause button and asking ourselves, who's talking right now? The owl or the crocodile. Yes. And we don't stay there because it's a little binary. There's some other questions we can ask. So to practice this, we're going to ask first some questions that disconnect us, because it turns out our crocodile is also very creative. Right? It doesn't only tell crocodile stories, it likes to be fed. So I'd love a volunteer that comes up front here, will act this out with me a little bit, to think about how the crocodile likes to be fed. And all you need to do is feed me the questions. So you don't even have to answer them. The only thing I'm asking you to do is to feed me the questions, to really seduce me, to go deep into disconnecting crocodile mode. Who wants to do that? 15 volunteers. Who's not volunteering? It's the crocodile. Who wants to volunteer? Who wants to volunteer? One person. All I'm asking you to do is to read the questions to me that are on page 4 on the left side. It's not that hard. It's not that much. Who wants to do that? Yes, come on up. Thank you so much. A little applause for that, for the bravery to step into the crocodile ring here. Okay, so yes, you got the questions there. Okay, very good. We're going to do exchange of microphones. So if you can ask me the first question on the left.
What happened to you?
And I'd like a little bit more effect because I want somebody who really colludes with me.
Okay. Like more effect, like
really help me to get into the crocodile mode.
Oh, okay. What happened to you?
Thank you. What's your name?
Calissa.
Calissa, you're my friend, right? What happened to me? You know we did all this work with Mary. We prepared a proposal. We had, I think, about 10 meetings. And then Mary's boss, John, comes around and he wants to change all this stuff. Can you believe that?
Who is to blame for you being stuck?
We're going to have a new Netflix series soon. So I think who's to blame for this clearly is Mary, because Mary should have some spine, don't you think?
Absolutely. What is the real problem here?
Do you have an hour? Jeez, the real problem is that I think I've noticed it with Mary before. She doesn't speak up when she needs to speak up. Have you noticed that? Yeah, you're probably right. And what I think is the real problem is that nobody in the organization actually stands for what they really believe. They just phone it in, like all of corporate America.
What should they do to fix this problem?
Clearly, what they should do is they should apologize to me, the expert, for even thinking about doing something different. And go with my plan. Duh.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is lovely. So applause for you. Thank you so much. I feel so much better. I can go home now. This is lovely. Thank you for solving my problems. And sorry for stealing your piece of paper. You could blame me for that later. Great. So we're going to do the same exercise with the person sitting next to you on a problem that you're facing. Now, because we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, the person with the longest hair is going to be the coach, just like in our case. Yeah? The person with the longest hair is going to be the coach. The person with the longest hair is going to be the coach. We're going to get 4 minutes for this. Okay, off you go. Victim coaching. Enjoy yourselves. All right. Besides that, you may not have gotten through all the questions. The idea was to get a little sense of it. How does this help you as a coachee, as the recipient of this lovely coaching? How does this help you? Does not help you?
It helps you a little. Yes, it helps a little bit, right? Why? Well, eventually, yes. But in the meantime, I like this idea of somebody's having this little violin orchestra for oh, yeah. It's really hard, isn't it? We call it idiot's empathy. It's idiotic.
But it makes me feel better because at least somebody finally understands me. Finally. Because everybody loves to have somebody that understands them, right? Oh, finally somebody understands me. All right, now, this exercise is also having some drawbacks. Because how does this not help you, these line of questions? Yes? It enables what? The owl or the crocodile? The crocodile. I can live my whole life in crocodile mode. Oh, I hate this. Like I can do my whole life in crocodile mode. I can. Blaming, judging, obsessing, all this, I can do it. And it's not even my fault, technically, because from an evolutionary perspective, my brain, think about your comfort zone, crossing of the arms, likes it. Isn't that interesting? We're wired for misery, for survival and misery, because we're wired to actually blame and fight and flight and freeze. And when we look around in the world, you see a lot of that happening on the political stage, corporations, families often. Like, it's not so fun out there. Now I can blame that, or I can say, who's blaming that? The owl or the crocodile? Who's blaming that? The owl or the crocodile? Is it the wise self or the not so wise self who's blaming? The crocodile. It's my crocodile. This exercise that we just did is also called the drug dealer is not your friend. Who is the drug dealer? The coach, right? The person in this case with the long hair. Not all long-haired people are drug dealers. Just to be clear, this is just for the metaphor of this exercise, so we don't get any wrong ideas, right? So, what's the drug? What's the drug? The questions that we asked. The drug-feeding questions, like, oh, what happened to you? Who's there to blame? Whatever your favorite question is. And we also turn those questions on ourselves. I have a lot of crocodile blame dialogue within myself. What have I done wrong now? Have I disappointed Mary again? All that stuff. It's all crocodile talk. Notice that? That's crocodile talk. It's just crocodile talk. And the drug dealer is not your friend. Why is the drug dealer not your friend? Why is the drug dealer not your friend? Why is the person that colludes you not your friend? What happens to us if we listen to them over and over and over and over again? What happens? We become sick, like a druggie. Right? We become smaller and smaller and smaller. Because anything that we repeat creates a neural highway in my mind. Just like the way I walk to campus, or what I eat, or whatever it is, it becomes a habit. It becomes a habit. So whenever neurons fire together, they wire together. Whenever neurons fire together, they wire together. So having some awareness of what thinking I feed, are they disconnecting me or are they connecting me, is an important thing for me to think about. Okay, so a little recap and then we do some questions and then we're almost done. When we're challenged, the first thing that we do is we press the pause button. We ask ourselves then who is talking, the owl or the? When we're not quite sure who's talking, the crocodile. And then we ask ourselves some questions, not the crocodile questions, but the owl questions, which are on the right. Would you be willing to help me again on this? Yes, you can say no. That's all right. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you to coach me again, but now using not the 99% principle, not the 99% crocodile talk questions, but the 1% principle coaching questions. Okay. All right. Thank you.
What is the challenge?
See, even her intonation is different. So like, okay, he'll take a seat. Take a seat. Connect to your wisdom. Your whole energy can communicate that. So what's my challenge? My challenge is that I haven't yet managed to work effectively with Mary. We're dancing around each other. Yeah, thank you.
What is out of your control?
Whole list of things. What Mary's boss does. What Mary does. Whether Mary likes what she does or not. Whether they have more layoffs coming, which is also part of the situation. Whether I will feel happy every day about it. Can't control any of that. Thank you.
Well, what is in your control?
Well, first thing is always in my control is my values. And my values are about truth, love, and service. So part of that is having an honest conversation with Mary. That's within my, I can do that. I can be honest even if she's not honest. Maybe she's not honest, it's okay. I can be unconditionally honest. I can choose to be caring and listen to her. Maybe ask her some questions, not try to convince her, but maybe more like, hey, Mary, what do you think? And then being of service. I think I need to do a much better job of understanding where they actually want to go with the organization. In my crocodile mind, I always think that my piece of the puzzle, culture, is the most important one. Just like when you work with a teacher and they teach history, that's the most important course, right? Or math, that's the most important. No, it's a piece of it. So what's the bigger picture? Yeah, that would be within my 1% to actually think about. Yeah.
Will you be able to be at peace and be proud of those actions?
So I reframe the question a little bit like, what will make me proud of my actions and give me peace in my heart? That question is like an antidote to the crocodile for me. Let's rehearse that question for a second. What will bring me peace in my heart? Let's say that. What will bring me peace in my heart? And give me pride in my actions? What will give me peace in my heart? And pride in my actions? Or make your own sentence. It's fine. It's just a sentence to get started. Like, you may not like the sentence at all. It's fine. Not a problem. My crocodile thinks you should all love that sentence. No, not the work. It doesn't work that way. But just to give a sense. So, what will give me peace in my heart and pride in my actions? So, what will give me peace in my heart is to be free from an attachment to an outcome. So, this is not just me. This is something we do together. Also, speaking my truth and being curious, knowing that I did my best, and pride in my actions will be to also be a little courageous, because I'm a bit of a pleaser. So I will say, like, hey, Mary, you come up with this stuff, and there's another way that I see. And if we take these shortcuts here, it actually may not work very well. So I want to stay connected. You could say, if you think about those three I, we, it connectedness things we talked about, that I want to stay connected to myself, my own perspective, to her with empathy, and to the bigger picture, the thing that we're working on. Thank you so much for asking such excellent questions. How did you find those? I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now, please go back into your same pairings. The coach is still the person with the longest hair, in case you had some like very short-term changes, which I don't think technologically is possible. So do that and ask these questions. And it take about 4 minutes. Off you go. The questions on the right, the 1% principle coaching questions. Off you go. Okie dokie. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, 1% principle questions, or those questions that activate that connecting CQ wisdom, right? What does that give? What does that give us? What does that give us? What does that give? Why do it? Maybe we shouldn't do it. Why do it? What does that give us? Yes? Room for growth. Like, ooh, like we can grow. I think about Gene White at 95, who still was curious as a cat. Like, so, like, oh, the new planet. Like, wonder what, how can I learn? Ooh, like that. Like, I see the toy on the floor, like, ooh, how can I learn from this? Ooh, something didn't go, I was a breakup. Ooh, what can I learn from this? I didn't get my exam right. Ooh, what can I learn from this? I didn't get the job offer that I want. Ooh, what can I learn from this? Like, ooh, somebody didn't respond well. How can I respond differently? Right? So it gives possibilities. It connects me to learning, which is possibilities, which is that whole idea of like activating. The possibilities are not just going to show up on my doorstep. Like, hi, I'm here. I have to open the door to them by cleaning my mind from my crocodilian stuff. I have to open the curtains of my mind and say, come on in, possibilities. Learning, I want to know. I don't want to stay stuck in my little cesspool of crocodilian thinking that disconnects me. See that? Now, is this easy to do? Was it easy? Nah. Goes back to the crossing of the arms, because we're wired for what? Human species, sapiens, is wired for what? Survival, not growth. Forget about growth. I gotta survive. I'm too busy to survive to actually grow. So actually being in school is a revolutionary, evolutionary act if you choose to actually make use of it. You may not, I don't know. Right? And school doesn't end outside in the classroom or when you're done here in this school. Right? School keeps going. And life doesn't stop giving us challenges. Now, I get challenged every day, and I get thrown off course also every day. So I need helpers to remind me to say, oh, come on back here, over to the connected side. Come on back here. Come on back here. Come on back here. And in those moments, I think about people that I admire, and one person that I admire besides Gene White is Viktor Frankl. Who knows Viktor Frankl? Yes. Who is Viktor Frankl? Yes, he was a psychiatrist that wrote a book, but not just said, oh, I want to write a book. No, not like that. The guy was a psychiatrist in the 1930s, so about 100 years ago, in Vienna. He was Jewish, and he had some thoughts and ideas and insights about what was about to happen. He got a chance to actually emigrate from the US, from Austria to the United States, based upon his academic credentials. He chose not to do it. Chose not to do it. He chose to stay because his parents couldn't come. He ended up in 4 concentration camps. And all the while, he kept a sense of awareness, curiosity, connectedness going. Imagine that. Asking questions to himself, like, how do people make it through here? How do some people even seem to have moments of joy, service? What is that about? He stayed curious, even about the concentration camp experience. And when I think about that, I think, if he can do that, I can surely do it in a classroom, or in a meeting room, or at breakfast with my husband when he disagrees with me, or something like that. I can surely do that. But I have to remind myself, and the mind is like a dangerous neighborhood. It's better not to go there by myself. So I asked Viktor Frankl to join me. And then there's a specific thing that he wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, which is on page 6 of your handout. And if you don't have the handout, you get a PDF, all of us, so you can read this. Viktor Frankl wrote a couple of weeks after he was liberated from the concentration camp, I think in 1945. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. To choose one's own way. So do we always have a choice? It's a very personal question. Very deep question. Do we always have a choice? I believe we do. Not with what happens to us. I'm not into that kind of thinking. Like if I'm perfectly pure, then everything is going to be perfect. No. But I have a choice how I respond, from what values I respond, who I choose to be, given the challenge that's given to me. But who I choose to be doesn't change. That's my choice. Or maybe it does change, but it's my choice to change it. So that's the question I'd like to leave you with tonight. To me, this is a question that has occupied my life. Who am I? Who are you? You are probably not what your crocodile tells you you are. We are probably much bigger than that. First thing is to be aware there are different parts of us that will inform us, that will try to convince us of our smallness, of our crocodilianness, of our disconnectedness. I saw that again on November 5 with the elections. We're so quick to other. Who's talking when we're othering? Is it the owl or the crocodile? It's the crocodile. My wise brain sees the connection between us all and looks for a wise way to respond, not to judge, to respond, not to react, to be here. So, to practice this, when you're stressed, first thing you do is what? You press the pause button. Then you ask, who's talking right now, the owl or the? And then we learned another question. What gives me peace in my heart and pride in my actions? And the last thing that we learned was about that we always have a choice. If you like this kind of thinking, read Man's Search for Meaning. Read maybe Taming Your Crocodiles, a book I wrote about this stuff too. Or any of a plethora of books about it. And most importantly, have conversations with yourself and with each other about it. How do I make sure I create connectedness to my higher wisdom, to each other, and to my purpose? Thank you for your attention. Loved your engagement. Have a great night.
Hey everybody, just thank you again. I thought that was amazing. Really appreciate all the time and effort you put it in. I know we're a little over and people are probably trying to get out of here. I just have some quick announcements. For your participation for the leadership certificate, I will be posting the homework assignment on Canvas tomorrow. If you do not have access to the Canvas page or have any questions about it, please just shoot me an email. Also, our next session is next Wednesday, I believe. It is also on the Canvas site. Also, Ryan and I am here if you guys have any questions. Could we give one last round of applause? And thank you all.
Thank you.